Hi, this is Jason from Horrific Nightmares, and it's time for a positive spin. Now, today we're going to be talking about the remake of Straw Dogs. Now, my history with this film is pretty extensive. I actually saw this when it came out on video, I rented it, and I loved it. And I remember being in Big Lots, and they only had the DVD, they didn't have the Blu ray at the time. So I got the DVD from Big Lots, which are now actually closing all around now. But later on at a thrift store, I ended up finding this um, Blu-ray. So I upgraded because, truthfully, this is a fantastic remake. And I know I just talked about the original earlier in the week, but just to reiterate a few things, I do actually prefer this version to the original. So let's put a positive spin on Straw Dogs. Now, this is from 2011, exactly 40 years after the original came out, because the original came out in 1971. And like I said, I do prefer this to the original. I think the pacing's a little bit better. I mean, it's almost shot for shot. There's approximately 10 minutes difference between the two. Um, the original runs hour and 57 minutes, while the remake runs an hour and 48 and change. And with that 10 minutes, it's not just the 10 minutes, it's what they did with them. One of the things that's different between the two that I really wanted to focus on is in the original, when Dustin Hoffman and Susan George go to the church picnic. You know, that's the one thing where they're together with everyone in the little town. And I think what makes it flow better is in the remake, they not only have the church picnic where he confronts um, Alexander Skarsgård when they're in the parking lot, but there's also a football game at the end when everything kind of goes haywire. And I think splitting it up into those two events kind of make the movie flow a little bit better. Now for all the positives, other than the one I just discussed. I'm actually a bigger fan of James Marsden in the character than Dustin Hoffman, because it seems like him and Kate Bosworth have a little bit more chemistry than Dustin Hoffman and Susan George. One of the things I read about the original was that they actually, Dustin Hoffman and Susan George, moved into a place for a while with someone else just to experience, living together so they could get that chemistry. And they actually took some of the things that happened when they were living together and wrote them into the film, like arguments and stuff. It just never seemed like they had the type of chemistry or like they belonged together as much as James Marsden and Kate Bosworth. Now, Alexander Skarsgård is kind of the leader of not the hillbillies, but the country guys that kind of uh, want to get back at James Marsden. And also, in the film, just like in the original, the lead guy has a thing for the girl because they knew each other in the past and kind of went out with each other. So, one of the things I wanted to focus on is the atmosphere. Now, I get with Dustin Hoffman being in the original, he's over in England, so it's kind of like a fish out of water sort of story. I actually could identify with the atmosphere and the location and the overall tone of the film a little bit better with it being in the country. I've experienced some of that myself. Having family that lives in Virginia, um, every Thanksgiving they would go deer hunting, and of course I was the city boy who came from Maryland, and they would kind of mess with me and ask me if I wanted a piece of deer meat, cut right off of the deer, or if I wanted to drink some deer blood or something like that, just to mess with me. And, I didn't particularly care for it. I mean, it was family. So, I mean, I tried to take it, you know, and just keep take it in stride and keep on going. But, it did kind of bother me a little bit. So I kind of get where this movie is coming from in that way. When you're in a surrounding that you're not necessarily comfortable in, and you have the disadvantage of not being there all the time, like everyone else who lives there. And that's one of the biggest positives for me is the fact that I could identify right away with James Marsden, kind of being a stranger, even though this was my family. I still felt like a stranger sometimes. So uh, the cast is great. The house was actually very similar to the one in the original, and I thought that that was a cool homage. As I said before, Alexander Skarsgård is a really good villain, and I think he maybe is a little bit more believable as a villain than the guy in the original. Just my opinion. But, due to pace and the flow and the overall cast, that's pretty much why I prefer it. And those are my biggest positives in the film. And if you want to get uh, nitpicky, I guess, the song they play at the end is like an old country blues song when he turns up the record player. And in the original, it was bagpipes. So I'm a little bit more comfortable with the blues and, that sort of musical style. So that's just one of the smaller positives that I thought was really cool about it. And Dominic Purcell, playing a mentally handicapped guy. Um, I liked his part in it. I thought it was really interesting. Even though David Warner played in the original, he did a good job, but I don't know, it felt a little bit more realistic with Dominic Purcell. But yeah, this is a great film. Definitely check it out if you haven't seen it. If you have seen the original, I think you'll be pleasantly surprised by this one because it is very close. And like I said, the flow and the pacing, in my opinion, are a little bit better. So check this out, or don't. But don't forget to check out Joe's Positive Spin for Straw Dogs. And remember, guys, physical media matters. And until next time.